Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it is your first time here. My name is Jess. Today's video is going to be my January reading wrap up, so all the books that I read in the month of January. Now I actually read 7 books in January, but I'm only going to be talking about 5 of them because 2 are part of my new Smash the TBR series on the channel, which I'm going to be doing this year, so I'm going to save talking about those until a later date. But for now, let's just jump in and start talking about some books. So the first book that I read in January was I'm Half Sick of Shadows by Alan Bradbury. This was actually my book club's pick for December, but I was a little bit late in reading it. So these are murder mystery historical fiction following our main character Flavia de Luce, an incredibly bright and precocious 11-year-old. This is actually the 4th book in the series. Supposedly you can read each book as a standalone, and whilst I did enjoy this, I do think that you can tell that you are missing a little bit of context and background, which would obviously be in place had you read books 1, 2 and 3 before picking this one up. So in this particular book, Flavia's family agree to their country home being used as a film set. There is a snowstorm, an impromptu performance, and the crew, the actors, Flavia's family and most of the local villagers end up trapped at Flavia's home, and then a murder occurs. I really enjoyed this. The audiobook in particular was excellent. The narrator did a fantastic job of bringing Flavia's character alive. It was very entertaining, and I would highly recommend the audio if you enjoy listening to books in that way. As I said, Flavia is 11 and very precocious. She's also very interested in poisons and chemistry and the macabre, so is naturally delighted when a murder takes place right in her home, and she inserts herself into the very heart of everything that is going on. This book was witty, it was sharp, it was entertaining. For me, the weakest element was actually the murder and the mystery surrounding it, but my understanding is that these books are much more about the characters and getting to know the characters and their stories and their journeys, and I was interested enough that I will be going back to book 1 and starting the series from the beginning, probably listening to the audio in particular. So I gave this one 3.75 stars. As I said, it was okay. I went in expecting a murder mystery, and that was the weaker side of the story, but I am intrigued enough that I want to carry on with reading the series, or begin reading the series really in the way that it is supposed to be read. The next book that I picked up was probably my favourite read of the month, and that was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is contemporary romance. It is a much hyped book in the book community at the moment, and so I was a little bit wary going in as to whether it would live up to the hype, but for me it absolutely did. I really enjoyed this. It is very much what I wish the romance books that I read in December had been, and I also read this as part of a buddy read with Ali from The Sunday Feeling on Instagram, which just added to my overall reading experience. So this is, as I said, contemporary romance. We are following our main character Olive, a PhD candidate who doesn't believe in love or in long-lasting romantic relationships until she pretends to be the girlfriend of Adam Carlson, a hot-shot professor who is widely disliked for his blunt critiques and his attitude towards his students. This had a really sassy, snarky writing style which I just absolutely clicked with. It has humorous moments, it has heartfelt moments, it just has the right blend of everything, and as a rom-com in book style it just absolutely worked for me. Olive is a really strong character to root for, but I particularly liked Adam with his grumpiness. The whole grumpy meets sunshine trope is obviously very overdone, but Ali Hazelwood manages to put a fresh spin on it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend this book. For me it was definitely worth the hype, and I would not hesitate to recommend it. The next book that I read was Tombland by C.J. Sansom. This is the 7th book in the Shardlake series, a series which I personally think is quite underrated in the book community. They are murder mystery historical fiction set in Tudor England, and they are often quite dark but with a really interesting blend of mystery and history. C.J. Sansom is one of those authors who can just capture and express a setting so well and so wonderfully that it just comes alive in a reader's imagination, and that mixed in with the cast of often flawed characters that we get to know throughout these books just makes it one of my all-time favourite series. I feel like you can sense that there is a but coming. I really rate the series as a whole, but something about this particular book just didn't quite work for me. It still had a lot of the elements that I enjoy about the series, but there was just something that didn't quite click. Shardlake in this particular book finds himself at the heart of Kett's rebellion, which was a rising of the peasant classes against those of gentleman status, triggered, if you are interested, by the illegal enclosure of what was known as common land. So essentially those with wealth, money and influence taking advantage of those without, and given what is going on in the UK at the moment, you can take away from that what you will. We still have the murder mystery element, but my main issue with the book is that it didn't seem to quite know whether it was a full retelling of Kett's rebellion or whether it was a murder mystery, and so it sort of floundered between the two without really committing either way. One of the things that I particularly rate about this series is how clever and complex the crime or the murder mystery element tends to be, and that was lacking in this book. So I know it sounds like I didn't enjoy it. I did. It just wasn't the Shardlake installment that I was expecting and hoping that it would be. Then we have Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I feel like I have talked about this series a lot recently, so I will try to keep this brief. This is the 3rd book in the Ember in the Ashes series, a YA fantasy inspired series following 2 main characters. We have Leia, who is a scholar, the lowest class in this world's societies, and then we have Elias, who is a mask, a highly trained brutal assassin. The series with Leia's brother being accused of being a traitor and arrested, and Leia joins the scholar rebellion to try and free him, and as such she is planted in the Mask's academy, and so Elias and Leia's paths cross. But really that's kind of underselling what has gone on since then, although I obviously can't talk in too much detail without spoiling anything. But there is a whole lot more to this series. There is magic, there is politics, there is romance, there is coming of age, there is some dark violence, if you like that type of element. There is a lot to enjoy and appreciate, and they are very entertaining. I can't wait to see how Sabaa Tahir is going to wrap everything up in the final installment. There is a whole lot of questions that I have from the end of this book, so hopefully she will do it justice and bring everything together. But yeah, I have just really enjoyed my reading of this series. I would highly recommend it. As I say, they are dark, they are brutal, they are fast paced, they are entertaining, they are Roman inspired. There's a whole lot going on and a whole lot to enjoy, and I would definitely recommend them. And the final book that I'm going to talk about is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. It's a double book club sharing today, because this was the book club's pick for January. The theme was books set in space, and this is the one that we chose. So this is described as a space opera with a noir murder mystery element, and it certainly is that, in that we have a down on his luck detective who lives on an outer station in space, who is tasked with finding a missing girl and bringing her home. In doing so, his path crosses with the captain of an ice hauler who may have inadvertently started an intergalactic war with a broadcast that he makes following something that happens. And that is essentially this book in a nutshell, but it just doesn't seem to quite capture what actually takes place within the cover of this book. So I didn't like this book. there was something that just didn't gel with me, and I'm not quite sure why, because there were many elements that I would look for in a book and I fully expected to enjoy this, and I kept feeling like there was just something missing, or just something slightly out of my grasp, and if I could just get hold of it then the book would unlock and I would really enjoy it, but it just was missing something and I don't quite know what it was, and as a result I just really didn't enjoy this book. And I don't really know what else I can say without it being really spoilery. The characters, the setting, everything felt like it was done well. It just didn't connect or click, and it was just missing something. I do also have an issue with the ending of this book. I know that this is an invented and imagined world and setting, but I feel like the authors went out of their way to create something which was very authentic feeling and believable, and as such the ending just felt completely ridiculous and implausible, and I wondered what on earth was going on when I started to catch on to the direction that the authors were taking us in. And yeah, it was just a very unexpected element, and as I say, I know this is a created and imagined setting and story and world, and so the authors are fully entitled to take it any way that they want, but this had quite a, as I say, quite an authentic and raw and gritty feel to it, and I was fully invested and believing in the possibility of this world existing, and then the ending just made the whole thing feel ridiculous to me and didn't go with the rest of the book. Can't say much more without it being spoilery. If you've read it and you have an opinion, then I would love to chat with you about it, because I just didn't get it, and I feel like that's kind of the reading experience that I had with this book. I just didn't get it. Something was missing and I didn't get it, and I feel like if I had got it, it would have unlocked a whole other level of enjoyment for me, but it was just missing. So I gave this 3 stars, because I feel giving it 2.5 would have done it an injustice. But yeah, something was just not quite right for me, sadly. So there you go, they are the 5 books that I'm going to talk about that I read in the month of January. Do let me know if you have read any of them, or let me know what your favourite read in January was. I always love to chat more with you in the comments, but for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you are all keeping safe and well. Take care, and I'll see you soon.